everybody, and welcome to the Malibu Pacific Church podcast. This is the conversation after the conversation. And if you haven't listened to this past week's sermon yet, I say go back and listen to it so this podcast makes a little more sense. All right, with that said, it's me, Joel.
How you doing, everybody? Andy here.
It's Andy, everybody. Hey, Voices Session 5.
Yes.
How great was that?
Good,
Super
good
awesome
day.
Sunday. Yeah, burritos.
Burritos from Howdy's.
Yeah.
And the guys who are representing that work down there, they come to our church.
Absolutely.
I know.
It's so awesome. So that was the big question. People wanted to know, which burrito did you get?
I always get the breakfast burrito.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what we had, yeah.
Absolutely. Were you able to acquire one on Sunday, or were they all gone?
Oh, they were I think there were three left.
Three
Yeah,
left.
three
Okay, so you left it for
yeah.
the masses. That's great.
Yeah.
That was something that was really funny. Was somebody came up to me and was like, "So is there another round of burritos coming out? Because I could eat another 2 or 3."
Oh, well, they're
So,
so good.
They're so good.
So if you haven't been to Howdy's, make sure you go down there.
Yeah.
And the thing I really do like is the Verdi. It's not a burrito. It's, I don't know, the burrito Verdi bowl or something like that. So it's really good. Yeah, I love their green sauce. Yeah.
Absolutely, and that's a locally owned.
Tomatillo.
Yeah,
Yep.
ooh, so good. A locally owned business. Howdy's. Go check that out as we are doing our Go Local campaign. If you haven't gotten one of those bingo cards or heard about Go Local yet, we are trying to do a blackout bingo card to go visit restaurants in Malibu because they're hurting right now. They are definitely hurting right now because PCH is still closed. We had 3 fires and all the things, so we're doing our part to just have a little bit of fun in this community, in our community, and go out to eat at these restaurants.
Yeah.
All right. So, session 5, Andy. Is there one thing that you wish you could have said or could have gone deeper in during your sermon? Because it was a lot of information the last 5 weeks.
It was a lot.
But it was good.
There is, well, the period of the 400 years of silence was actually during the period where the Persians rose up, and then the Greeks that everybody's very familiar with, and then Rome. So I wish I wanted to describe just a little bit more. And we had some music playing.
I was going to say, did you need more dramatic music?
More
Do you want me to
dramatic
turn it on right
music.
now?
But the stage was set.
Yes.
The point is, and I didn't quite get to it because I was already looking up, I'm running out of time. The stage was set for, there was a kingdom, kingdoms were being built, and then God's kingdom with, Jesus being born.
Yeah.
And, the fulfillment of the prophecy that Jesus is coming. And so there was a conflict of kingdom. So what God was doing was also setting the stage for a conflict of the kingdoms, God's kingdom and the worldly kingdom. And that third kingdom, Persians, Greek, and then Rome,
Yeah.
Rome took over the world. And so it was just the perfect stage to be set that the conflict was getting ready to happen between God's kingdom and the earthly kingdom of Rome.
Yeah.
So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
I wanted to
Wonder-
spend a little more time with that tension, but I ran out of time.
Yeah, you've mentioned on here before that if you weren't a pastor, you'd want to be a history teacher.
I would, yes, that was my major, and just absolutely love it. Yeah,
That's so fun. I was talking to somebody as we were walking away on Sunday, and how much they loved all the history behind it because they also are a history buff.
yeah,
And the person, I told him that exact thing of like, yeah, Andy wanted to be, if he wasn't a pastor, he'd want to be a history professor. And he was like, well, I'm really glad he's a pastor because he can give us true wisdom and true knowledge. And I was like, hey, that's cool because you
that's
bring
nice.
you bring in the actual, like, here's the factual of what happened, like actually happened,
Yeah.
and it's Christ centered. So it's really good. I like that.
Well, I had some great history teachers, and that's what made me want to be a history major. They made it fun. I mean, it was
cool.
like they were telling a story, and they put you in that situation. There were times when I was like, I don't want class to end. This is so
Oh.
good. And so, anyway, that's you think of history as boring, something that happened in the past, but actually, there's stories and people's stories. And history really does repeat itself. There are principles to be learned there. And that's why I just loved it.
So good. Well, I think one of the coolest visuals since you've been on a mic or a bike. You're on a motorcycle.
Yes.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
that was
a while back, yeah.
that was a while back. But this one, when you had the table with all the books and everything,
Yeah.
such an amazing visual. Where'd you get that idea from?
Actually, don't know.
Okay.
I preached this similar sermon in Santa Rosa when I was a pastor there. It was a little different, but I use that illustration actually in Santa Rosa several times.
Oh, cool.
So I don't. It might have been Christy Martinez that helped me with my visuals. She was the service programmer in Santa Rosa. So why don't we set up a table full of, the books and everything. So she would help me with illustrations. So Christy, if you're listening to that, I just picked up on that. It had such a great visual even back then. We do a thing called Theopraxis that talks about how to read the Bible, but I never used it there. So I think it was Christy Martinez.
Cool.
Just to let you know.
That's awesome. Well, one of my, I think, favorite things, and I think everybody's as well, was having all the books of the Bible up on the screen and talking about the historical narrative, the poetry behind it, and the prophecy behind it. And you're just really highlighting and showing people that, and I loved your quote when you said, it's really fun when people say, I don't believe in the Bible, because
right.
I could see you going, what are you
Which part?
What
It's a library.
part's a library?
Well, in my
Yeah.
brain, it's a library. Right.
Yeah, totally. So you don't
So
like,
if you weren't there, didn't hear it,
Yeah.
there's 66 different books in the Bible, and there's 40 different authors spanning 1,500 years. So by saying I don't believe in something, like the book is a Bible, it's a library. So it's like saying I disagree with the entire library. Well, like me walking into the Malibu library, say I disagree with this Malibu library.
especially the DVD section.
Yes. Well, you don't know what you're saying. You've never been in
Totally.
a library. Yeah.
Totally. Well, one of the questions that we got was, what was one of the books that really changed your life from this library?
Oh, that's good. Well, obviously the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
Yeah.
And I heard years ago, I'm trying to remember who said it, and I thought it was so good. Might have been Erwin McManus, who has Mosaic Church. I went to a conference early on, years ago when he was kind of getting started. And he made a statement there that just stayed with me, that we, imagine if we would spend every day reading the Gospels for 3 years and just repeat Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John for 3 years, it will be the same amount of time as if we had spent time with Jesus. And that just made a huge impression on me. So definitely the Gospels. I've really been soaking Philippians, and it's always been a favorite book. And I'm actually, for the last 2 weeks, been reading Philippians every day. It's only 4 quick chapters, but letting it just get in my bones.
Yeah.
And I don't know. That's another passage that's had a huge impact. But obviously the Gospels, because it's the story of Jesus.
Yeah.
Because letting the words of Jesus, listen to him as if Jesus is speaking to you and discipling you. And that's been impactful, obviously. And then I love Philippians. Yeah.
That's awesome. I do love at the beginning of your sermon, you said, we are going to be going through the entire Bible in the next 30 minutes. Looking at people's faces going like, it's that easy?
Yeah.
Right?
Try to summarize it anyway.
Totally. So how do you pare it down? Because obviously you have 30 minutes, or 40, there's a lot of time, no secret there.
Well, this is a conversation after the conversation. And so when we're talking about series, it is actually impossible. There's some major themes and topics, and there's some minor themes and topics. And so and this is how I'm getting this from Orange, our children's ministry, our student ministries. So let me answer the question this way. We have picked, and we're using the Orange curriculum, 36 different themes or ideas that are for 1 month that are a curriculum for the next 3 years. So in 3 years, come to church every week, every month. In the next 3 years, your kids will have gotten 36 major ideas, bottom lines for them to take away.
Gotcha.
And that they could have in their tool belt for the rest of their lives. So we don't talk about David and Bathsheba with second graders. We just don't think that's a major theme for the kids. So same thing. Everything is the Word of God, but we are picking some themes out that there are some common, major ideas, big ideas that we want adults to walk away with in the next 3 years.
Yes.
So that's what we're doing. I mean, so we're not going through Deuteronomy or Ecclesiastes. It's talking about don't eat shrimp or bottom feeders and don't touch dead bodies, which were rules for the ancient world.
Totally.
It's in the Bible, but we just don't think it's as relevant, or you can discuss that in a small group. But we're not going to create a whole series on that.
On shrimp
On shrimp, yeah. Even though I love shrimp, but
or leaving the camp. No, it won't
exactly.
go that way. Yeah,
so,
yeah, no.
so what are the major, like forgiveness is a
Totally.
major theme that's running through Old Testament and New Testament
Yes.
that we think is a biblical principle that is the gospel. So what are those major themes? And so
Totally.
that's how we pick
Yeah, yeah.
what we're doing on a Sunday morning, because we can't cover everything.
Absolutely. I always wonder, like, what book of the Bible is probably least covered, of like from church sermons.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm going to look that up. I'm going to have the answer to that the next podcast.
Numbers, Leviticus,
Yeah.
Deuteronomy.
Who
some
begat
of those. But in Deuteronomy, Moses is speaking to the people, and that's a major theme for our kids.
Yeah.
That Moses is getting ready to leave the people, and these are his parting words.
Mm-hmm.
And he says this, and it's a major theme running through Scripture. And eventually, it's picking up on the Ten Commandments that you shall not have any other gods before you. So make
Yeah.
God number one in your life. Parents, as you're teaching your kids, put God first. What he's saying is your kids will emulate what's important to you will be important to them.
Yes.
So if God is important to you and he's primary in your life, it will be important in your home and in your family.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, that's a theme throughout the scriptures. There's a lot of other things that are like, don't do this, don't do that. And that was to help people in the desert
Yeah.
survive the desert. Well, context is everything in scripture. So
Totally.
if you go to seminary, graduate school, history, you need to understand the context and then draw out
Yeah.
biblical principles. So this is important.
That's very important.
We're teaching principles here
Mm.
to help people apply in their modern day life. So what was a principle that God was trying to explain to people, a principle that the Apostle Paul was explaining to Ephesus and
Yeah.
to Philippians and Galatians and so forth, and Rome and so on. He was speaking to a specific context
Yeah.
that's actually in the ancient world, that is not our world, and the circumstances are different, but there is a principle there that we can draw out.
Yeah.
And here's what scholars do. This is what we should all be doing, is drawing a bridge into the modern world, my world, and applying that principle to my context.
Totally.
So we're not preaching, here's what the rule is. We're preaching a higher level, which is what Jesus did,
Mm-hmm.
was teaching a biblical principle
Mm-hmm.
and then learning to apply that principle.
Totally. It sounds like Youth Ministry 101 right there, because
Oh.
when we turn that corner with students, when they first reading, the
Yeah.
Bible, contextualizing it in junior high, they put themselves inside of that story and it's about them.
Yeah.
But what we do is we make that corner. It's not about you, but it is for you.
Right.
Like and to get that shift in the mind is amazing. To not take it out of context, but to put it in context to make your life better. That's
Yeah.
exactly what this library is trying to do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. One of my other favorite visuals was when you took the book of Revelation at the very end and you were
Oh.
like, and we're somewhere here.
Yeah.
Was that a just kind of spur of the moment kind of idea, or was that a
No. I've mentioned that before. That's coming back from seminary.
Yeah.
Took a class on Revelation, and that just broke it open for me.
Mhm.
Because I always thought that was it is confusing. You take a look, you read the book
Totally.
of Revelation, their images, they are, seems wild. But if there's the images for John about the modern world,
Yeah.
the way the professor described it is me going to a village in the northern region of Ghana, West Africa, and they've never seen a computer.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to explain a computer to somebody who's never seen a computer before.
Yeah.
Or the Danis, the indigenous people of New Guinea.
Mm-hmm.
And they are prehistoric people. They're Stone Age people. And when Western civilization came, and you're trying to explain a computer to a Stone Age person,
Yeah.
how do you
do it?
describe a computer to somebody who's never seen one before? Well, it's this box
Yeah, it
and
does stuff.
does stuff, and you can see it.
There's a screen.
Well, that's John trying to describe a modern day world.
Yeah.
It was beyond him, but he's seeing visions of what it's going to be like in the end. So for him, he's describing it in a very first century. Well, there are these armies and these things.
Yeah.
So that's what somebody's never seen a computer before trying to describe a computer or something that's going to happen in the future. Yeah. So it's first century language describing something that's going to be happening in the future. So
For sure.
that's why it's confusing, and that just helped me begin to understand. Oh, okay, that's what those visions are, and that is the end. But we are living between, the end.
Yeah.
The last part of the story, I would say, in Acts 28, and he just stops. And Luke, we believe, is trying to say, now you are the third chapter. You are the third trilogy.
Yeah.
And you're writing your story, which I love our vision statement here, which is to create a church for everybody and every story. We are a part of that God's story.
Yeah.
And God is looking for people who will join in his story because he's still writing that story.
Absolutely.
And we get to be a part of that. To me, that's like,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Revelation is describing that very end.
Yeah. I remember, man, going hard and trying to really study in Revelation too during my time. And oh my gosh, at certain points I was like, wait, are they on drugs? Are they like really asking those questions? And I think that gets people tripped up with the Bible as a whole too, because we like to take things out of context. So we like our salad bar.
do.
We love a good buffet, and we want to get the stuff that we want to get from a good buffet. And I think we maybe treat the Bible that way too, where it's like, I like this, but I don't want that. I like this.
Yeah.
But really, when you go in the actual text and you go in context, it definitely, it makes sense. Like that's
When you're describing the word that we use in seminary, and you may have heard it before, but it's called exegesis. You exit out what's there. Eisegesis is me reading into the text.
Yep.
Or picking and choosing. Exegesis is just, okay, what was the context? What was happening? What was the language? Who was he speaking to? What was the situation? And then exit out what's there, not me trying to read into it. So I'm letting the text read me versus me read into the text.
Yes.
Which is eisegesis. And I'm going through Philippians, like I said. We actually don't do it justice in our translation in the NIV that I use, the New International Version translation. I was looking up a few words in Philippians chapter 3. Paul is saying, I was a leader of leaders. I was a Pharisee. I mean, I did all the right things. Nobody can compare to my life on how perfect I was. And I counted, I think verse 8, and I counted all rubbish. I counted all garbage. The literal Greek translation is the S word. It's all horse dung. It's horse poop. There's another word that we can use.
You could say
there.
I could just put a beep on it.
Yeah,
it's okay.
The literal translation is our word for horse poop.
Yeah. Shiitake mushrooms.
Yes. Shrimp again. Right. Schism.
Yeah.
He literally swears.
Yeah. That's
The
passion.
Apostle Paul.
Incredible.
I count it all like horse dung
Yeah.
poop.
Yeah.
Of all of my accomplishments compared to knowing who Christ is and what he has done for me. So everything I've done, it counts for nothing. And not only nothing, it's garbage. Not just garbage, it's rubbish.
Yeah.
And so that's a literal translation. But when you read it, even through the Greek and the context, it comes alive.
Incredible. Oh, that's so good. Well, we're going to be in Voices, session number 6. Amy is going to be preaching here this Sunday, so really excited to hear her preach.
good.
It's going to be really good. She's great. And if you haven't listened to this past sermon yet, listen to it. Listen to the whole series. There's 5 of them right now that are pretty incredible. So this week we are back 10:30 a.m. on site and online here at Malibu Pacific Church. remember to bring a friend. This is a great place to bring a
right.
friend.
That's right.
And share the sermon, share the podcast with a friend through a text message. You have no idea how powerful one text could change a life. So keep doing that, and we will see you here soon at Malibu Pacific Church. Again, hit that subscribe button and hit that share button. And thanks again for listening to the Malibu Pacific Church podcast.
Take care.